Hey guys, how's it going? And thanks for coming. I'm Nick and this is Real Life Money, and don't forget to subscribe if you like videos like this. So in this video, we're talking about 5 millionaire habits that I've adjusted to that have changed my life, and hopefully would be able to help you change your life just as well. It's interesting because millionaires and just successful people in general doesn't only have to be focused on money. However, they have the same amount of time as we do. They have 24 hours in a day. They have 365 days a year, yet they are achieving more than most people. So it's not like they are cheating with extra time, so how are they doing it? So these habits I really structured, kind of going from broad ideas to really narrowing down so we could focus a little bit more. So those are the 5 habits, and at the end, I'll even give you a bonus tip of something called the 10-10-10 rule. And I think it's a great rule that we should all really know and understand. So I'll give that to you at the end if you like to stick around. So let's start it off with the first millionaire habit that I've adopted is goal setting. Really basic, but let's talk about it to start off. So this is, a lot of people think of this as a New Year's resolution, right? Beginning of the year, what do I want to change? And people have so many goals. They want to lose weight. They want to become a millionaire. They want to buy a nice house. They want to buy a nicer car. They want to just change so many aspects, which doesn't usually work, as we all know. So we should really focus on 1, maybe 2 things to focus on and passions to follow. This is for a couple different reasons. One is multitasking. I've kind of grown up, a lot of people talk about, yeah, multitasking, do so many things. Multitasking's actually not that good. When you're just doing 2, 3, 4 times at the same time, 4 things at the same time, you're giving, a quarter of the effort or half the effort for each thing. You never really focus on one thing. Never half-ass something, you need to whole-ass it. Excuse my language, but I like that quote. And that also makes you able to bang it out even quicker. So it's like a building block. You focus primarily on one thing, and then when you finish that up, then you move on to the next thing. All right, so that's the first basic overall goal of a year. So now let's narrow it down a little bit more. So let's focus on number 2 habit, which could kind of be seen as a weekly thing. Set up a routine. So we all have obviously 7 days in a week. So focus on what you want to do. Maybe you want to do certain things on Monday. Maybe you should do certain things on Wednesdays. So for example, real quick, for this channel, I do 2 videos every single week, unless something horrendous happens or if I'm really sick, and even then I try to push it out for you guys. But I do 2 videos a week, and that became a routine. Now starting a routine stinks, but once we get it rolling, it just becomes how we live. It's our lifestyle at that point. The problem with everyone else, and I know you're different because you're watching this video, but they're doing the same thing day in and day out in their rat race. Going to work, coming home, eating, Netflix, sleep. They're not producing any types of results. So you shouldn't do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, if it's actually producing results, like if you're doing something and something good comes of it, obviously we should try to focus on that again. So you need a good routine and not a bad one. So we started off with yearly. We narrowed it down a little bit into weekly. So now let's focus on daily. And this is learning from people that are smarter than you. So as a human being, we don't like being wrong. When we're trying to learn new things from, it could be a mentor, could be advice from any type of expert or professional in that field, or just on YouTube. I learn a lot of knowledge just through YouTube. But during that time, because they're the professional, they've become successful in whatever it is you want to achieve. We essentially have to throw our ego out the door. We don't like being wrong. However, when we're starting something, we're usually wrong. So we have to embrace that and actually getting to the learning mindset. So many different people have their own opinions, yet they didn't even do anything yet. They're like, oh, that's not going to work. Or, oh, simply do that. That's obviously the way to go. When they didn't do either of those things. So you really shouldn't be focusing on the sayers, really focus on the doers and see what their advice is, because they have experience. If you don't have experience, you really shouldn't be talking. So I put this as a daily habit because we should consistently do this every single day. It should be almost like a religious thing. You have to be borderline crazy and obsessed to just want to learn more every single day. Even if it's a small little piece of information, a little quote that maybe just sticks with you, anything. Every single day. Because if you're not moving forward, you're essentially moving backward, and eventually you're just gonna die. You have to move forward or else you just are dead in the water. And a little side note, if you're struggling to do this, I actually learned a lot from audiobooks. So if you're actually driving, you're commuting a decent time, and you don't have time to do anything, you could still learn on the go. Put it on your phone, listen to a YouTube video, an audiobook, and that's a great way to learn. You could also subscribe to my channel, which we could also help you there too. Alright, so we went from year, weekly, day. Now let's focus a little bit more on the fourth habit, which is schedule time for yourself. So you probably heard of the idea of pay yourself first. Now this is usually with money. You pay yourself first, put money in a savings account, put money in a retirement account, invest before you pay anyone anything. Now I think that should have the same concept not only with money, but with our time. And even more so time. Because time is even more valuable than money. Time's the most valuable resource ever, unless we start manipulating dimensions and stuff like that, because no one could just get more time. So the idea of paying yourself first, you could set aside maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours in a certain day. So you're only going to be focusing on whatever you need in that hour. You're basically scheduling your day. This kind of goes back to our routine, like a weekly routine. When are you going to be doing your certain things? But once you know the days, then you dive into the days. When could you work those hours? Maybe later in the day after working. After eating and everything, that's what I do. Then I focus on what has to be done. I thought of this recently, especially on weekends, because usually we're just bombarded with all these different things, kind of like what we talked about in the beginning with our yearly goals. There's so many things to do, we get overwhelmed, and then we end up doing nothing at all. So if you really focus on one thing at a certain time, just schedule an hour and focus primarily on that, and that's a great way to start. And a lot of millionaires do this. They actually dig even deeper. We're talking about scheduling per hour, which we should really do, because then you would see where you're putting your time. Are you putting time toward TV, towards social media? You should really look at the time, each hour, what are you doing? Millionaires, even billionaires, I might have heard Bill Gates actually narrows this scheduling time for himself down to every 5 minutes. So that's all right, I'm going to be doing 5 minutes there, 5 minutes here, and he's really structuring his day. That's a little much to start, but I think it's a great concept to take away. So we've been narrowing down, guys. However, for number 5, the 5th millionaire habit that I learned that completely changed my life, we've been focusing on grinding, right? Really focusing what has to be done. However, this almost seems counterintuitive, but I learned this helps a lot. And number 5 is taking a step back every so often to basically reevaluate what's going on. Reevaluate how you're going about it. Why are you even doing this? Like really focusing on why you're doing something. That's very powerful. And again, stepping back to also look at what you're doing. Is it producing results? What's coming of it? So instead of just like really focusing on grinding in one thing, once you step back, you see a larger picture. So then you could adjust. If it's working, continue doing that. If it's not, adjust even more. And that's kind of the process. If you're failing, readjust so you're not failing anymore. Now, we wouldn't really say do this like every year, because a year's kind of a long time for you to like just focus on something and then take a step back and hey, did that work? So maybe you could do this every month or every quarter or so. You know, you don't want to do this too often, but enough to really, I don't like to use the word relax too much, because it's like, oh, you're lazy if you relax. No, to like take a step back and evaluate. Do that maybe monthly or quarterly. So those were the 5 millionaire habits that really changed my life. Hopefully that might have opened some passageways up for you guys to really focus on what you want. Now, I didn't forget about that bonus at the end of the 10-10-10 rule. Now, I actually learned this from an audiobook that I listened to while just commuting back and forth to work. I'm pretty sure that was the title of the book, 10-10-10 rule. You could try to look it up. But I love the concept and we should all learn from it. So what is it? So the first 10 is 10 days. The second 10 is 10 months. And the last 10 is 10 years. And the concept behind this is when you're about to make a decision, think of these different time intervals. How is it going to affect you in the next 10 days? Next question would be, how would it affect you in the next 10 months? And last but not least, how is it going to affect you in the last 10 years? And they could all have different answers. So it's basically like a short-term, medium-term, long-term goal-finding strategy. So something could be fantastic in the short term, but horrendous in the long term. So we should probably focus more toward the long term of the spectrum. However, I think that's great to understand. I learned a lot of not only poor people, but unsuccessful people. They're very narrow-minded. You know, they're worrying about the weekend, right? They're worrying about Saturday. What are they going to do Saturday? Let's broaden our mind is, what are you going to do in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now? You know, what are you going to do on a Saturday 10 years from now? That's stepping way back and thinking long term. It's interesting. If you keep a lookout for that, more successful people have a longer term horizon. So what do you guys think of that? So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. What are some millionaire habits that completely changed your life? And don't forget about that 10-10-10 rule. That could definitely help all of us out. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.